Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. We've got our big Mike Alfred video coming out in a couple hours time, but before that we wanted to jump on and give two quick news updates. One in relation to Bitfarms as they start to explore HPC AI potential opportunities, and one from Cipher with a big $50 million pipe investment. Before we get into it, take a second, hit the like button, you guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below if you're currently holding either one of these companies, what you thought about today's news, and your outlook for the Bitcoin mining sector as we're starting to see some green shoots once again in the space. With that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so here we are Friday morning. We have our highly anticipated interview with Mike Alfred coming up in just an hour's time, Anthony. But before that, we needed to jump on for a traditional podcast. There was some big news out today from Cipher, share price reacting very favorably this morning, and along with Bitfarms starting to explore some strategic options in terms of HPC AI. So maybe we'll kick it off with the mid-morning market update. I know we didn't cover this yesterday. Some life coming back into the mining sector. Yesterday was green across the board. Today looking to be very similar, especially in the case of Cipher.
Yeah, obviously news came out last night about Cipher, so we knew after hours their share price was doing really well. But since market open today, the share price has increased to over 30%, heading towards 31% as we speak. Core Scientific also having a good day, and I had a good day yesterday. So bear in mind the issue with the news that came out over the weekend with DeepSeek impacted Core Scientific probably more than any other share price on Monday morning, as probably one of the imminent mining companies that we're associated with HPC having the biggest contract out there. But we've seen, since Tuesday and Wednesday, the recovery's started already. And having a good day today as well. So the story around the HPC is looking more and more positive as more news stories come out about DeepSeek and actually is it capable of performing at the level that, say, its equivalents in the US like ChatGPT. I think it's left wanting a little with some of the recent analysis of that product. So maybe the HPC was a news story to affect the markets in a very short space of time. But we're seeing recovering now. Bitcoin price doing really well, heading towards 106,000, and the mining stocks majority in green today.
Yeah, a great end to the week. Now, we've talked multiple times this week, Anthony, about that HODL 15 list of the top 70 publicly traded companies. You've talked about the density of that Bitcoin in MicroStrategy up at the top. HODL 15 has now put out a new list, total Bitcoin holders. So this includes things like ETFs, Satoshi's wallet, government funds. But what's interesting here, Anthony, is if you look at this list, there's 37 lines on the list, represents over 6 million Bitcoin. So if you think 21 million total supply, this is roughly a third of all of the Bitcoin in the world held by just 37 entities. So I wanted to get your take on this one, specifically as we start to talk about the consolidation of Bitcoin, almost in contrast of the decentralized notion behind this technology.
Yeah, and some of those are exchanges. Obviously, Coinbase and Binance are exchanges at the top there. Bitfinex exchange as well. So there's quite a few exchanges on that list where individuals will be holding their crypto and their Bitcoin allocations. But I mean, it's interesting to see this because the list we've been looking at previously was the public companies, and if you look at that list there's very few. In fact, only three of the public companies that are listed on his previous list make this list. So you've got MicroStrategy, Marathon Digital, and Riot Platforms are the only ones that managed to achieve any status on this list of 37 with nation states coming into the fray, like we've just reported on this week, with the Czech Republic interested in having a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Equally, it was announced yesterday in the European Union that they were quite concerned about this, and none of the other European countries at the moment are going down this route to have a strategic reserve. Living in the UK, we're not seeing as much positivity towards Bitcoin as I see in the North American conversations. So it looks like Europe as well, not fully on board at the moment with Bitcoin at the sort of the political level. But we're seeing quite the opposite in North and South America when you consider, the likes of El Salvador have already taken on Bitcoin as their strategic reserve, and the likes of the US looking to do that in the next maybe 6 to 12 months, even that soon. So it will be interesting to see if that happens and whether the sentiment changes in some of the other Western economies around the world.
Yeah, it definitely will. And a little bit surprising. You and I have talked about how the UK is such a leader in technology, the steam engine, the internet. We've talked about both of those originating there. However, in the world of crypto, digital assets seems to be taking a backseat to the Americas, as you say. Now, another interesting article here, Anthony. We saw Grayscale yesterday launch a miner ETF under the ticker MNRS. We also got an article out earlier this week talking about Riot Platforms now being targeted by a second activist investor, in addition to the Starboard investor we reported on earlier in the month. Now, why this is interesting, that's obviously spurred them to start looking into HPC AI initiatives. We now have a very similar story out from Bitfarms this morning, engaging a strategic partner to start looking at these opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did have, I mean, and in fairness to Riot Platforms, we talked about this a few times on the podcast. Yes, back in June, they were absolutely wanting to remain a Bitcoin miner, trying to be the best Bitcoin miner in the space, and that was their focus for the Corsicana site. But we noticed in the sort of like 2 or 3 podcasts since that June meetup at Corsicana itself, that Jason was definitely softening to the idea. He could understand that the market was talking far more positively around HPC than it was about Bitcoin mining, and it even got to the stage where, like he said, well, if we've got a deal to come along and look at it, we'd consider everything, which was literally a turnaround then. So having these two recent activist investors joining there probably just sort of supports what Jason's been alluding to, without formally telling the market last year, but not just having that hard stance. I mean, it was a hard stance in June because we were there the day after we'd been to the Denton facility and listened to that 200 megawatt deal from Adam and the team with CoreWeave. So we were all on a high from that day, and we go to Corsicana and we have a fantastic look at their facility there. All immersion cooling, and when the question started about the HPC use of some of their megawatts at that site, it was a categoric no from the start, and so very few questions were allowed to be asked in that position. But now it's the turnaround's happened, and believe you me, there's literally now only a couple of miners. I think only CleanSpark have said, all the way along, we're staying a miner. We're not looking at HPC. We believe mining's here to stay. Marathon Digital haven't signed up anything yet in HPC land, but they'll probably consider it. If there's a strategy out there, you can bet your bottom dollar Marathon will look at that strategy and implement it somewhere along the line. So, you're really down to CleanSpark being the only mine that's not advocately looking for a HPC deal out there. They look like to be the only pure play miner. Where if you go back 8, 9 months ago, it was probably the other way around. It was literally very few miners were looking in the HPC space, but we have seen a big transition, and we can look at the sort of like 16, 17 miners that we regularly cover on here. And if we're now saying CleanSpark's the only one, that's nearly 95% of Bitcoin miners in the space now looking to use some of their power towards HPC. So that announcement, with regards to Riot, not a surprise. And actually, if they're buying shares in Riot, and raising capital that way, that's fine. That's great for Riot. I don't think they needed too much direction. I think he was already looking towards this. It wasn't like he had a gun to his head, and I don't think the size of their allocations would have meant too much impact on any voting or anything like that. But Jason's, he's an intelligent guy out there. He understands, and believe you me, every CEO we've had on the podcast was really complimentary about the Core Scientific deal. Even listening to Patrick the other day, very, very complimentary about Core Scientific. In so much so, he said it was a one-off deal. He believes that was a one-off deal, and that everybody else now is vying for something nearly as good. They've got the best deal because they've got the funding to pay for it as well. So they sit in a very, very good place. And we're seeing that, reflected again this week in the share price. When we say it drops on Monday, I mean, it's still up, 300 or 400%, this year effectively from January. So, it's had a great run. Yes, it had a little bit of a dip this week when that news came out. We were all shocked with that news, but then we saw the repercussions of people using that AI technology and not even getting the answers to some of the questions they're even asking. So, there's limitations to it. I know some of the bigger, well-known analysts have looked at DeepSeek as well, and they're not seeing that. So that's why we're seeing this bounce. That's why we're seeing these announcements coming out.
Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Yeah, now very interesting, Anthony. You've set the stage very nicely for the HPC conversation. We've got Ben Gagnon on Tuesday. We just had Hive on talking about this big Paraguay M&A between the two companies. Now Bitfarms coming out saying they're stealing a page from the Riot playbook and actually hiring a strategic advisor to help with their HPC AI hunt.
Yeah, they've hired actually 2. So they've hired Appleby Strategy Group and Worldwide Technology, and they're going to conduct a feasibility analysis on all the North American sites that Bitfarms have, and advise on its HPC AI strategy effectively. And Ben did talk about this move towards looking at utilizing some of the power. So again, this is sort of like more confirmation of what he was previously saying on the previous podcast. So again, not a total shock. Ben's not stupid as well. Ben is, he's probably one of the top operators in the Bitcoin mining space, but he knows, it's about return on investment, and if they can utilize some of that energy, and they've got a pipeline, effectively about 1.2 gigawatts in North America. Everyone's got these pipelines well over a gigawatt, 2 gigawatts, 4 gigawatts. It's like I'm losing count. There must be, you've got enough there to light the whole of the UK apparently. So, yeah. So Ben's, he's got advisors on board there to look at their sites. Don't forget they're purchasing the Stronghold Mining company this month. That'll finish by the end of Q1, and they've also got the site in Pennsylvania as well. They've released their site in Paraguay to Hive. That brought $85 million into the foray, and Ben will give us an update of how that money is going to be utilized and what additional funding they're going to need. But I think this is a positive move by Bitfarms. And I don't think the likes of their biggest shareholder, Riot, will have any problems, because Riot are also in the same boat as well. So that's them ticked the HPC box together at the same time. But we do have one more update.
Certainly does. I think I have an unlimited power pipeline here, Anthony. I just keep plugging stuff into the wall and it keeps working. So I don't know. CIFR Mining, we talked about them being up 30% plus this morning. coming out with a big announcement, $50 million pipe investment from SoftBank. So really secure, almost polar contrast to what we saw on Monday with the DeepSeek news, but another big investment in data centers, AI infrastructure here in North America.
Yeah, it's a good investment. I mean, in terms of let's be clear though, in terms of we know the sites that Cipher have got, they've got some big sites there, and 50 million is great, but it's not going to cover it. It's not going to scratch the surface in terms of building out those sites, refurbishment. But this is I mean, for those that aren't aware what a pipe is, a pipe private investment in a public equity. And bear in mind, these big investment banks will look to tailor a sort of a package to buy shares in a company. Normally they'll get a little bit of a discount for those as well, but it's there's an understanding that they know the strategy that Tyler and the team at Cipher are going to move into, so they'll have received presentations and understanding of what's going ahead. And there was a lot of speculation last night on social media, about there'll be some further announcements coming out maybe in a month's time with regards to maybe an announcement. These companies, that they'll have an understanding of the market. They'll know what's going on more so than the retail investors. But we'll see what this has done now is this has opened the door now for other investment banks now to start considering if they want an investment in the HPC AI and actually having that investment via a mining company, which isn't the traditional way. You'd probably want to go and invest in a data center or a hyperscaler or anything like that and have direct there. But having a Bitcoin miner who's going to then, provide data centers or even build their own data centers and run their own HPC businesses. Because bear in mind, the likes of Cipher, the likes of Core Scientific, those two companies stand out because they've got a history of doing this. This won't be first time for Cipher. It's certainly not the first time for Core Scientific. They've already been running partnerships with CoreWeave for years, with GPUs and the Ethereum mining days. So again, Cipher go into that bracket there of this is not a new business model for them. So I think the market have reacted, very positively. We saw the bounce today. It's up 30%. But bear in mind, go back to Friday close and the share price was higher than it is at the moment. So, it's recovered some of the sort of like the downside from this week. Some of these mining stocks are still having to recover from Monday's performance. And even though Core Scientific's having a good day, I think that stock's got to go up another 20% at least to get back close to where it was, maybe 30% to get back to where it was on Monday at opening. So, but it's a good update from Cipher. We want to hear more. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to catch up with Tyler when we hit New York in a few weeks' time and hear some of his thoughts about moving forward over the next year, 18 months from that position.
Yeah, we certainly will. Bitcoin Investor Week coming up at the end of February, so under a month away now. And you bring up a good point, Anthony. If your share price drops 50%, you actually need a 100% increase to get back to that same price. So it is a little disheartening when we see those big drops on Monday, Tuesday. However, we have made up some ground. Going to be interesting to see how that story progresses with Cipher. We're also waiting on official confirmation from Sue and Asher about the HUD 8 deal. And then, of course, we've got Ben Gagnon next week, Tuesday, with Mike Alfred coming on this afternoon. He should be very happy with those Cipher calls he mentioned yesterday, up 30% on the next day of trading. So with that being said, you guys, let us know, what did you think of the Cipher news, the Bitfarms news, any questions coming up for Mike or Ben next week? Let us know in the comments section below. Feel free to subscribe, hit the like button. We'll see you back here in an hour.